Hello, friends, and welcome to the Boot Room as we look ahead to Ipswich Town's next league game, a trip to Cheltenham, and a chance to finally get the first win of the season. I am Mark Heath. Joining me this week is Andy Warren to break down the trip to Cheltenham tomorrow, Andy. And it's been a fairly underwhelming start to the season for Town from a results point of view. Extraordinary in terms of the amount of players they've brought in, the signings they've made. Tom Carroll signed today, but they've still yet to win in 3 games. What are your thoughts going into tomorrow's game at Cheltenham?
Not going to call it a must-win game, but it would be a really nice. It would be a really nice one for them to win, because you're right. It's the excitement. It couldn't have been more exciting off the pitch, but on it, just serving reminders of just how much work they've done on this squad over the summer, and how much there is still to do in getting it to click. And I honestly think that a result in a game will do them the world of good. I think they'd have got that result at Burton had Scott Fraser not missed that penalty as well. So this is it's not a fixture I think they'll necessarily be overly enthused about having on a Tuesday night. Not just for the distance. It's a team that's come up into the division and looking to make an impact, and these teams want to make an impact against the likes of Ipswich, Sunderland, Sheffield Wednesday. So I'm not sure Ipswich will be hugely looking forward to this one, but I do think it's an opportunity to get themselves up and running.
Yeah, fingers crossed we can get that win, settle a few nerves and get the season rolling. Key question, of course, Andy, is what Paul Cook does with the side. We know he's made 16 signings now this summer. Tom Carroll added today, midfielder. And there's a few question marks going into the game, isn't there, in terms of what they do where, particularly centre-half, and with those 14 million attacking options as well. Who plays in the 4 up front? What would you do?
Yeah. Well, we know Cameron Burgess will be starting. There'll be at least one debut handed out. He's starting at the heart of defence, which is then raising the question of who he starts alongside. I think a lot of that will depend on the fitness of Kane Vincent-Young, who, of course, has played in the 2 league games so far, but is maybe a little undercooked. He's been out for so long. Did come back for obviously a cameo at the end of last season, but then exited with a shoulder injury. So if he's good to go for a second game in 3 or 4 days, then the decision is Janoi Donacien or Luke Wolfenden at centre half. Luke Wolfenden, I think, is probably the player that we'd all like to see make a success of that position. The homegrown boy clearly got the talent, but I think if you've watched the games so far this season, and both of these 2 players have played in all 3 of them, I think you'd have to argue that actually Janoi Donacien has been the more consistent of the 2 centre halves. So if it's a straight choice between the 2 of them and Donacien isn't required at right back, then I could see Cook going with Janoi alongside the new boy Burgess at the back.
And you had quite an interesting theory earlier as well, kind of opining that perhaps KVY could be rested for this one. You move Janoi out to right back, perhaps.
Yeah, potentially. We'll see. And obviously, if that happens, Donacien plays right back and Wolfenden gets another go alongside the new signing. So yeah, I think Vincent Young's fitness will maybe be the deciding factor on how that all shakes out.
Okay, do you want to try and give us a team? What your starting 11 would be?
I can try. I'll go Hladky in goal. I think Vincent Young will probably play. In which case, I'd then go Donacien, Burgess, probably still Matt Penny. I could see Hayden Coulson potentially coming into the match day 18, but not necessarily straight into a starting lineup. He's had a bout of COVID and missed a little bit of Middlesbrough's pre-season as a result. So I'd stick with Penny there. Tom Carroll signed, but I can't imagine he's going to be starting games. So it's going to be Lee Evans and Raheem Harper in the 2, and then it gets interesting. This is where the 10 or 11 players have to go into 4. One of those 4 surely needs to be Kyle Edwards after his display from the bench against Burton at the weekend. 20 minutes of brilliant football from him, threatening throughout. I'd be really surprised if he's not one of those 4. So he's likely to start on the left. You have to think that Joe Pigott will get another go in this one. And then the question with him is it as the up top on his own, or is he in the support role to Macaulay Bonne? And for me, I'm probably thinking of, if I'm Paul Cook, I'm probably thinking about Pigott and Bonne here. So I'd go Edwards on the left. I'd go Pigott and Bonne, with Pigott the one to drop a little deeper. And then that leaves the right side where you're kind of picking between, do you give Dobro another go? Scott Fraser. I think if you're playing Bon and Piggott through the middle, I can't see Scott Fraser being left out of the side. So I'd go Scott. I'd probably have to go Fraser in that position. Although I'd love to start seeing him centrally a bit more, because that's where we want to see him.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, he's been played wide, hasn't he, so far? But he came in very much as a number 10, one of the best in the league, and we've not seen him there. That's a bit odd.
A little bit. We talk about these wide players in the kind of the front four there, and the winger. They're not wingers. There's a reason Edwards is kind of playing on that left side, coming in on his right foot. And I think there's probably a reason why Fraser's been used, certainly the weekend, on the right, coming in on his left foot, because Cook wants those two players to get a bit tighter to the striker and the number 10, and allow the fullback to be the width. He wants those fullbacks getting outside them and getting to the byline to cross. So I could see Fraser having an impact in one of these positions, but really, we want to see him. We want to see him centrally as a number 10. So, but I can't see that necessarily happening just yet.
Okay, let's move on then. Predictions. You've predicted your starting lineup then. Are we going to finally see Town get the first win of the season, get the season up and running, as I say, calm a few nerves and really get this Town ship steaming? What do you reckon?
A tentative. I'm going to go for a tentative yes on that. I can see them keeping a clean sheet. I think Burgess. It's a game Burgess should enjoy. Cheltenham with Tozer, their defender, who can play centrally and at left back, hurling long throws into the box. He's likely to potentially come into the side for this one. They've got other players who can throw long throws into the box as well. So there's going to be a bit of an aerial bombardment, and I think that Burgess will enjoy this because that's his game, heading things. So I think they're going to keep a clean sheet, and I think they're going to score a goal as well, because I think Paul Cook's teams aren't going to draw a blank too often, I wouldn't say. So I'm going to go for a tentative 1-0 Ipswich win.
1-0 Ipswich win, Andy's saying. I'm going to be slightly more negative and say 1-1. The search will go on for a win. A bit more time will be needed. We shall see. Follow all with the guys, Andy, Stu and Ross, all at Cheltenham tomorrow night. Read everything they do online and in print, and we'll speak to you again ahead of this weekend's game against MK Dons at Portman Road. See you then.